Welcome back to the Project Manga Podcast, where we cover One Piece, My Hero, Black Clover, Dr. Stone, Mashle, and Jujutsu Kaisen week to week. Back this week covering Weekly Shonen Jump issue number 51. I am your host, Eagle.
And I'm Mellow Yenis.
And as you can tell, Nox is absent this week. We were giving him a bit of a break so he could spend some time with some family. So, yeah. With that said, as always, before we get started, we would like to have you take a look in the description box down below where you can find links to any and all of our individual social media accounts such as Twitter, online communities like Discord, places to listen to the podcast, audio listening platforms, whichever you prefer, you can find us there, as well as links to support the podcast through our online store or our Patreon. And with all those words said, also, while you're down there, slap a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more fire-ass weekly content. Also, there will be timestamps where you can conveniently navigate through the video if you want to avoid spoilers. So, what a fantastic week in Jump.
Everything's here.
Everything is here.
No health breaks, no kind of like relaxations. It's like,
all six motherfuckers.
All six.
Let's go.
Great week. Also, yeah, no, go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
I'm just super excited for our first chapter.
Yes, I am as well. Yeah, yes. Well, let's get right into it. Chapter 166 of Jujutsu Kaisen, Tokyo #1 Colony Part 6. And
so cool.
You might as well lead us in since you're so excited about it.
Oh man, I really like. So I like that we confirmed that Higuruma's ability lets him know what the evidence is.
Yeah.
Automatically.
Yeah.
So it's a very one-sided thing. And it's interesting that like we were talking about it last episode about how Higuruma's like personal resentment and like biases would influence the use of Judgeman.
Yeah.
You know? So I just really like that they really confirmed that thing. And he's like, he could recognize kind of like really dark parts of himself where he's just like, yeah, I should not be a judge.
Yeah.
I'll get jaded and make horrible calls to people. I will not give true leniency. I will not give true unbiased stuff. So acting as a prosecutor, he limited himself, and I think that's really telling of who he is as a person. He's like, hey, there was someone who told me, is like, oh, I don't think it's that all power corrupts, it's that power is magnetic to the corruptible.
Yes.
So like being self-aware of that corruptible nature within himself really stands out to Higuruma for like being like a good agent of justice.
Well, and he knows he's a good empathetic person too, right? He's like, I don't want to put myself in those positions to where like I have to make those judgment calls, like this is somebody's life I have in my hands type shit. And I'm going to want to delve into things more than they're actually going to do in the, court setting with as corrupt as it is, But
I mean,
what was that?
I mean, look at him at page 2. He's hearing the verdict. He knows the evidence, and he looks miserable.
Yeah.
He's just like, I'm not about it. And then I guess I'll do it. Like, when he's talking about it, he's like, ugly. That's what I thought every time I tried to help another person. That includes Itadori. All people are weak and ugly, no matter how high-minded a soul you aspire to be. There's nothing to it. Darkness before your eyes is just darkness. If you shine a little light, all you see is more emptiness beside you. And he's like getting himself riled up. He has to psych himself up to carry this out.
Yeah. Because
he knows it's not right. And I love that in this chapter. Like, such good. What do you think about the choreography just straight up? Like,
I think the choreography is tight, especially like when he comes in with the blade and Yuji is like throwing all the desks and chairs up and like weaving in between them, and like he throws his jacket to feign the fucking sword strike and like comes in, feigns the strike with his punch, but throws the shirt and then comes in with a sweep kick. Higuruma hops it, and then they're coming with the fucking uppercut and slash. And And at that point, Higuruma like is thinking about the evidence, and he puts the executioner's blade away and takes the shot from Itadori. And I just thought, I thought the choreography through that like battle sequence was like, I mean, like Noxie's always saying, the way the paneling and the choreography flows through Jujutsu Kaisen seems like you're watching an anime scene. You can just like follow it so well and imagine the way it flows so well. It just seems like a scene in the anime. That's the best way to put it.
I think that a lot of manga have like really realized that like, to truly succeed as a serialization, they need to do more than just get published as a manga. They need like games, they need movies, they need animes, they need light novels, they need all these other extra like criteria to draw in money for intellectual properties. And they're like, hey, you know what? This series is cool. Like Parasite, right? It was a series that was made in the 70s. It was not really drawn to be an anime initially, right? Like that really wasn't the big concept, and it wasn't made a anime until like just a few years ago, like almost 20 years later, where people are like, we love this series, it deserves to be an anime. And it's like a lot of these manga nowadays, the new ones, or at least the ones that are current, not new but current, a lot of them are aware of that. And I've noticed that a lot of them have been like taking a very cinematic approach to like way they do like fight scenes and like compositions, the way they're like kind of like staggering things, because like we know that like using frames and all this stuff to kind of organize and collate, like give impressions, like editing is a huge thing between both of them. So like there's always been overlap, but I feel like it's been really emphasized recently. And I like that Higuruma can't reach his eye. That's just because he talks about it's like, I can't look away from injustice. So when he's about to commit injustice, he can't look at it, right? He can't look at it, and he can't face his own like personal choice to cut down Yuji, and deactivates. And then what a page turn. He just gets gut punched.
Yeah, he gets that gut
Page
punch.
14.
And without any cursed energy like amplification or reinforcement, that like just rocked Higuruma's shit. Like he was like
even with reinforcement curses on like technique on himself, Yuji throws chairs like it's nothing. Yeah. He almost threw his shirt like a weapon. Like
he's just tossing them.
He was scattering them. He was scattering them. Yuji's a beast.
Yeah. And then we get this heartfelt dialogue where, Higuruma's just like, yo, like, why did you admit to the crime? Like, you didn't do it. The evidence was about the demon inside you, Sukuna.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you didn't willfully relinquish control of your body over to him. You're innocent. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And you just
absence of reason.
You just like, I'm too weak. Like, it's my fault. And
he blames himself.
Pulls up the chair, like, put your shirt on, man. We're gonna have a discussion. I'll give you 100 points. And like at this point in the chapter, I was just like, man, I'm really fucking with Higuruma. And he's dispelled judgment at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, Higuruma, Yuji asks him at 16, he's like, why'd you dispel your curse technique? Yeah.
And then he's like, have you ever killed someone of your own will? And he's like, yeah. And then Higuruma's like, I see. Didn't it feel awful? And I'm just really looking forward to like Higuruma being a part of the squad now. Somebody said during my live reaction, like Higuruma's going to be the new Nanami to Yuji, which I would love that dynamic. I would really love.
Oh, and they kind of got similar faces too. Yeah. Honestly,
I believe that was Siva Akil or maybe somebody else in the Twitch chat. I can't remember, but shouts out to them. They spotted that dynamic, and I'm looking forward to it if that's going to be the case. I want Higuruma to be a part of the gang 100%.
that's such a cool parallel for him to be like the new Nanami, because like they're both working men, right? Like
Jaded.
respectable, jaded, you know, working class guys.
Yes.
One was a business salaryman and one's a lawyer, like a public servant. I'm just like, bro, this is wild.
We'll get that scene from Nanami, you know, always used to have that tie pull scene. We'll get that scene from, you know, Higuruma where he's just, all right, let's get busy. I miss Nanami, man. Fuck.
Such a good character.
For real. And went out like
Man, and I like that both their curse techniques are both related towards their jobs. Where Nanami's like, I have overtime, and Higuruma's just like, I have a courtroom. That's really what I do.
Spot too. That's another really crazy like juxtaposition and parallel between the two characters. That their curse techniques are both like really related to their job.
They identify themselves by their vocation a little bit. Yeah. And then they're both like, hey, you know, the things I don't like about my job is that I don't actually help people. So like they have very similar gripes about what they do, but they're both very effective. Yeah. Like Nanami always seemed extremely capable, just like Higuruma.
Yeah.
Man, I did not expect that. And they have. And Nanami had like the white suit, right? And the white hair, and then Higuruma's got the black hair and the black suit, so it's a nice like color parallel, like balancing out. Like that's such a spot, man. That hits me. I love parallels like that. Thank you. Good spot. The part that I thought was really interesting is that like once he like, you know, puts down the guns, so to speak, gets clocked, he's just laying there, and then he just starts reciting law code, like the driest possible shit. And he's just like, hey,
or control signifies non-compass mentis.
Sakuna
possessed your body in Shibuya. In other words, you couldn't control yourself and you didn't abandon self-control voluntarily, so you're innocent. You didn't commit that crime. That was some powerful dialogue for me.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really interesting because the court system is flawed in that sense. Like, people can confess to a crime even if they're actually innocent to it. Whether they feel like pressured by outside forces, you can see things about like court fixings and stuff, where people can get blackmailed into confessing to a crime and to take the blame so that other people can get away with it. You see it in like crime dramatizations all the time.
Or even a case like Yuji's where they feel they are responsible even though law dictates that they aren't, you know?
Yeah, like there was a guy, there was like a little YouTube thing that I saw, and I only saw like the first thing. It was like a preview to a show or something, and this guy had like hit a kid on a bike. The driver had the right of way. The kid was on a bike, jaywalked, basically blew through the red light, got hit, and the guy was like, "Oh my God, it's my fault! Oh my God, it's my fault!" And like one of the paramedics was there, is like, "Oh, dude, stop saying that! Seriously, stop saying that! You're not helping yourself. It's not your fault. I know that you hit the guy, but it's not your fault. Please stop saying that. I can't help you further than that." And just because then the cops were coming and the guy was going to get arrested and he was going to just confess to a thing, and they're like, all right, easy peasy, cut and dry, book him. You know,
it's my fault,
yeah. And you can't it's like the easy way out, you know. So I like that Higuruma's actually taking it. I like that Higuruma couldn't bring himself to
he's really trying to unpack this,
fuck over people,
how Yuji feels about it, what really went down, and I don't know what do you think they are going to talk about next chapter? Because that's something I feel we should speculate on.
You know,
they're really just gonna Higuruma's really just gonna try to unpack Yuji's circumstance and his situation.
I think they're gonna share. I think they're gonna do a little bit of like a back and forth sharing, because I think Higuruma's like, didn't it feel awful? And I think he's gonna go into depth of like how he felt, and then later he was just like, well, with the curse technique, and then maybe the way we might explore the way he justified it to himself. Like, oh, they deserved it. They were all part of a horrible system, and they're all guilty by association. That kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think we'll probably talk about like Junpei shit next chapter. Like,
yeah. Or the fact that Yuji doesn't really differentiate the value of life of a curse to a value of life of a human. And then Higuruma's like, oh man, you're even nicer than that? What the like, I wonder how that's gonna be going. I think Higuruma might just like kind of like confess his own crimes, because like he killed off a whole courtroom, right? Like he effectively did mass murder when he activated his curse technique. So I want to see that kind of thing.
When?
And then
like originally, you mean?
Originally, because he talks about like the people he killed, right? Like, because when he first gets Judgment, he's like, I demand a retrial. This is chapters ago.
I guess I assumed that was like, yeah, I don't know. It looks like maybe it's just
because he hated them. Like he was so angry.
Or something, like some front desk people.
Yeah, I think that's that to me looks like a court, because one guy's like dressed in a suit, which is like a lawyer. The other one looks like robes, so I think that's the head judge, and that desk is the judge's desk.
I don't know. Well, I guess to me it looked like
an office.
Judge's desk, not even an office. I guess maybe just like a front desk, like the concierge or the front desk lady or something. Who knew? Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like Japanese courts are a little more like practical as opposed to like American courts, which like kind of takes over the leftover from like British Parliament courts and stuff, where it's like a little more stately.
The judge had like a phone there on his desk, or on their desk, I should say.
Right. Maybe, I don't know, but I remember him like getting really mad at a verdict and like demanding a retrial, and that's what activated the first time for Judge Man. And then we fast forward a little bit, and then you see him and he's like, yeah, I just want to do this. Like there was a point where he kind of because early in the chapter he said he wanted to on page 11, until that point at the very least, I thought I should value that very depravity. So I feel like he's like, well, I'm in a crazy world and I hate it and I can't stop hating it. How do I like cope with it? And so he starts like indulging his like baser instincts, his cruel impulses, and like he does kill people using Judge Man. He kills a lot of people using Judge Man, right? Like he racks up 100 points.
100 points,
yeah, and that's after he entered the colony. It took him a while to get there. Like took him a few days. It took him 12 days. He did a lot of stuff. So like maybe he's been on kind of like oh god, I don't even know what to call it, like a killer's high, but like that sort of high that you get from like life or death scenarios, where he's just like running on that, and now that he's had a time to like stop his momentum, actually reflect and like deflate, I kind of want to see how he's going to like reflect on what he's done so far. I feel like that's the direction of the next chapter. I love on page 13 Yuji's clear eyes, like facing him clearly without like remorse, but also without regret or resentment. Just like, these are just the things we're doing and we have to do it. Page 13.
Yep.
And I just love that because it's, man.
And I mean, just I guess something else too, like just aesthetically about the executioner's sword, the way it's just kind of like a cursed energy blade, kind of. It's not, doesn't even really have like an actual like metal blade. It's just, again, like that gavel is kind of the hilt, and then that
I liked that a lot.
It's out of the gavel. Oh, it's so nice.
I liked that a lot. The very like Kuwabara, Yu Yu Hakusho kind of stuff. I'm a sucker for that. I'm a sucker for the energy sword, man. That's why I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
But the thing I really liked about the sword was because we were talking, it's like, oh, maybe it's an executioner's axe, maybe it's a guillotine, because like all the guillotines that happened when he did the domain expansion. But I forgot that Lady Justice, the statue of Lady Justice, she's blind, carries a scale, which is the shape of Judge Man, and also carries a sword. So I love that, like, they work that in there, and I feel kind of silly not even like thinking about that.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't know. I mean, I think this is a relatively straightforward chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen here, but
yeah,
something else.
It's very emotionally significant.
Kind of a spot on is just the something we didn't talk about also is the executioner sword's like actual like application or its ability. The harshest sentence
One touch kill
penalty with confiscation. First, confiscation removes the ability to use a cursed technique or cursed energy in Itadori's case, which we knew. Then Higuruma receives the executioner sword, which is new this chapter, and it says, without exception, anyone cut by the executioner sword will die. So is this kind of like some
wild?
Is this like if you even get nicked, it's just insta death, like it saps your soul out, or do we think it's kind of like an undead unluck, kind of like unrepair rip type situation, where if you get cut by it, you get an unclosing wound, which will eventually kill you?
Ooh, that's interesting. Part of me thinks the former rather than the latter.
You think?
Because
it's hard to imagine a cursed technique like that would just instant
kill someone.
But I guess we get a lot of those within the more powerful modern domains. So I guess it's not too far fetched. Sorry though.
I mean, it's an application of like the one shot, one kill domains. But the points to get to that domain are very conditional, because like it has to be a crime that warrants the death penalty.
Yeah.
And then B, they have to be charged as guilty. So like I mean, even in our real life, it's hard to convict someone that seems obviously guilty, right? So like having Yuji admit guilt even when he's innocent, like I think that was very poetic. I think very timely, especially like I feel like this chapter really hit hard, at least for me, considering the recent decisions with the Rittenhouse trial.
Yeah.
I think it's a former, mainly because, before I get off topic, the law has a thing against cruel and unusual punishments. So like a small nick where you unrepair it, you eventually just bleed out, would be considered cruel. So I think that because like when you execute someone, we use chemicals.
That is
sometimes.
Yeah.
We use chemicals. The chemicals are actually quite painful. Yeah.
And things like that. You know, the chemicals are painful, like you make a point, but they also do kind of mix it with things that I think block out those pain receptors.
Numbs the thing. They actually do a thing where like it's supposed to numb it, but if you get the balance wrong, it won't really.
It's like horribly painful, and they're like,
and then one of the things they also do normally is they induce a paralytic so that people can't freak out while they're dying. So they actually stay still. And so for the people that observe the execution process, it's a lot more palatable. I don't know. It's a fucking weird world.
I don't know why you would ever want to observe a thing like that, but I guess hey, to each their own. Maybe if it's like in a circumstance where, you know, a murderer's, you know, victim
killed your family, you want to see
that
justice,
get that closure, but that just seems
I think that the people that be judges, I honestly don't think that the death penalty should be a thing. I mean, it's tricky because I feel like there's some cases where I can see the merit in it, but as like a general broad statement, barring like exceptions and stuff, like egregious exceptions, right? I think that it shouldn't be done because I personally have no faith in any like legal or governmental body's authority to not abuse the death penalty.
Yeah.
Because like we've had a lot, like you can just Google search, you
All
know,
the times it's been fucked up.
young black men that were innocent, that they found out they're innocent 30 years
Yes.
later, and they were put to death.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah, that's the only time. Like, I don't want to get too far off topic here into
Yeah.
like legality discussions or whatever. But
Mhm.
like, it's the only time I really agree with it is that in egregious cases, like terrible crimes, where it's like bona
Like
fide
war
like,
crimes.
DNA proof, where like either war crimes, yeah, or like horrific like serial killer murders, where there's bona fide like DNA proof, like
Yeah,
it is
like-
this dude beyond the shadow of a doubt, like. Modern DNA science can prove that, you know.
if you kill over
Without a
like
doubt.
50 people or like over like 10 people or
then
something
we
like
can
that.
probably get you out of here pretty
Yeah,
safely.
because killing a person can mount a life sentence. If you have multiple life sentences, isn't that just the same as one life sentence? Like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. I don't know, because like I think watching a movie like Gamer made me think. I was like, do I really trust any authority institution with
Yeah.
the death penalty if they don't like exploit it in some way? You know, so I see where Higuruma's coming from, where he like chooses empathy even though it's hard, even though it hurts. He chooses to like empathize, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I think that's really about all I had for this chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen.
I only had one little thing that I want to touch on. What do you think he's gonna Yuji's gonna use the first 100 points for?
You know, I think they had a plan for the 100 points, right? Yuji and Megumi. I think I forgot what their plan for the 100 points was, but I think he'll probably stick to the plan. Unless,
Yeah, I know it's gonna be
he
within
and Higuruma through their conversation come to like
a new idea.
some agreement on like what a good rule to implement could be that would, you know, satisfy both of their interests.
Higuruma's the perfect ally to have in this point. He knows how to game the system. He knows what rules would stick
Yeah.
and be hard to wriggle around.
Well, and he's well versed in just the legal system,
overlapping
and all
of
those
rules.
loopholes. Yeah, overlapping of
overlaps.
rules and go duck it. Yo,
Oh,
holy shit.
man,
Yo, he's gonna play
okay.
the fucking system like a bastard. Oh my god.
Dude, Higuruma's gonna be the first curse lawyer. Curse lawyer.
And something else like I feel we should touch on is just like obviously something that shines in this chapter is just like Gege's ability, just his character writing in general, and like writing of character interactions and meaningful confrontations within characters that like allow them to come to a deeper understanding with each other through that, like just I don't know, that combat and that showing of character, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just feel like that's something we touch on a lot, very reminiscent of Hunter x Hunter. Gege has a lot of strength in character writing and expanding on characters and their understanding of each other through combat. Like it's something that feels really nice and flows well within the chapters and allows the pacing to be good at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, like, page 16, that line, he's just like, I remembered why I got into law in the first place. And that's like, of lines, it reminds me of kind of like a very return to center moment. Like, I've strayed from who I am as a person. I want to return to that center. And I love lines like that, especially for Higuruma, because he was acting kind of wild. He was hanging out in a bathtub fully clothed, okay? Full of water. He was not doing good. Like, he was struggling. He's like, I just want to feel something, even if it's stupid.
Right. But yeah, I think that's all I had for this chapter
Mhm.
of Jujutsu Kaisen this week.
That's it for me.
All right. Well, with that, I think we can go ahead and get right into chapter 219 of Black Clover, sorry, Dr. Stone, 3 Heroes. And this was a kind of a fun, hype, goofy transitional chapter where we kind of got some conditioning challenges to decide on, who the warrior will be and who the scientist will be and stuff like that. I think it was pretty predictable as far as who the final squad would be. We knew it would be Ryusui. We knew it would be Senku. The only real debate, I think, was who the warrior would be. I kind of assumed it would be Tsukasa, but
Yeah.
he does make some valid points as to weight and the person who being up there, kind of a need to be nimble and shit. We don't know exactly what we're going to be facing. Somebody who's a little more nimble as opposed to brute strength could be nice. So, yeah, but I really enjoyed this chapter.
I really thought, it's so good. This one is the Senku 17 for this one. So I wonder.
The
let's see.
Senku 17 where?
First page.
Oh yeah, yep. So I mean, they've obviously had a fair bit of test rockets and stuff they've had to scrap out.
Yeah, I do like that they've been slowly upping the numbers as the chapters have been progressing.
Yeah, well, it just shows how much time is really going by and how many attempts they've really had to try at this to succeed. Makes it feel more realistic.
Yeah,
and
I do like that. Oh,
go ahead.
All right. So I kind of want to focus on the fact that they're actually, because so far the chapters have been kind of going in a steady progression of we've gained this, we've gained that, we're progressing, we're steadily building up for the big moment. And then I like that the tension here, there's 2 major tension points of who's the warrior, and then the other one is Senku actually physically up to the task? I like that they're putting him in a place where he's not succeeding. I love that.
Yeah, me too. Well, I mean, we always knew he wasn't the most physically apt, but for them to be man, can you even maneuver and carry around the weight of the spacesuit? When you think about it, even in low gravity, my man's is gonna be struggling with the spacesuit. I guess I always assume that at the very least,
Look at them little chicken legs.
Once you get up into the 0G and low gravity settings, that spacesuit really wouldn't hinder you too much, but I guess that it is still weight on you, that you got to move around. But I guess I always assumed it wouldn't be that heavy based on the materials it's made out of, but to withstand the vacuum of space, I guess it does have to be pretty heavy.
Probably has to be reinforced. Probably has to be reinforced. He's probably carrying air. I think about diving. If you think about scuba gear, those tanks are heavy. They can't be. They have to be made out of really sturdy material to not compress themselves during a vacuum, because you need to have a sturdy enough oxygen supply.
Yeah.
So I feel that's going to be a lot of the weight.
I'm sure they'll expound on the materials and stuff once we really start getting into the making of the spacesuits here in Dr. Stone within that, But if anybody has any insight onto the materials and how they make, spacesuits, let us know in the comments. It'd be interesting to hear. Otherwise, I'll probably just look it up, who knows. But, we had the swimming contest, the clothed swimming contest and shit, the Ishigami village goers
that made sense to me.
Yeah, obviously, they're oh yeah, they're a water people, so it makes sense they would be good swimmers. They're all flexing on everybody look at us going. But
we swim every day, we're kids in the water. Yeah, bunch of river rats.
Hyoga flexing on everybody. I was surprised we didn't get Kohaku in any of these swimming panels.
I think they were saving her up for the big reveal. For the big twist on page 1213.
Yep, exactly.
Where
that's what I figured while I was reading it, and then it did get pretty much confirmed. Yeah, where Kohaku beats Tsukasa to the top in the land race or whatever.
And she just straight up outscaled everybody. She jumped super high.
Yeah.
So I'm just like I think that'd be really cool because like you need that kind of explosive force if you're gonna be like on the moon to like jump high enough to like jump with enough force to like propel you forward.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I can
I'm like
see.
wondering, like, can you jump with enough force on the moon to just launch yourself into space? Like, is it
Oh no.
no? The gravity will keep
I
you
don't
down.
know.
It's that
That'd be
strong.
funny. I don't think so. Like, I don't know. That's the thing. I genuinely don't know. But that'd be a horrible image to have. Kaku jumps, removes herself from the game. Just,
Again, let us know in the comments. Is that a danger? Can you jump hard enough on the moon to just launch yourself? Like, is that something you got to be careful
Any
of?
science nerds out there? I feel like there is.
Science nerds.
I feel like
let
there
us
is.
know.
We've been talking about
Let
Dr.
us
Stone for a
know.
while. I know you're out there.
Again, Senku and them, I eventually feel like will, delve into this if it's going to be an issue. Like, yo, y'all got to be careful. Don't go too crazy. If you jump too high or do anything too crazy, you can get launched into space. The gravity's not as intense on the moon. So, but right after Tsukasa like gets beat by Kohaku, he's like, oh, and then I don't know. I guess I didn't assume that he was gonna call her up when she was going up to talk to him, that he would be testing her battle skills. But like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what does Tsukasa want to talk about? But it makes sense that he would kind of want to really test her abilities in battle, one-on-one in that kind of setting, to really determine for himself whether she's the best candidate. And then it does feel really nice, the dialogue we get from Tsukasa acknowledging Kohaku, because in the past he kind of did like brush her off and
he stunted on her a little bit.
Stunted on her and dismissed her as something that was like, okay, like you're kind of cold, but like you ain't fucking with me too much. Now he acknowledges her, like, through your experiences in these life or death battles, like you have become a warrior that is just as formidable as Hyogo or even me. Like, you may not believe it, but like through our exchange just now, I can tell. And she's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could tell too, you don't sleep on me. But as a Kohaku fan from day one, it feels really nice for me. I love it.
Really satisfying.
It is very satisfying.
I honestly wondered at first when Senku was like really struggling with like swimming. I was like, are they gonna send Chrome? Because that'd be hilarious. Like,
they can't send
Senku.
He's not like, especially not by himself. Like with Senku, Chrome is cold, but like in a like
vacuum.
And in a pinch, don't get me wrong, like I'm a Chrome fan. Like Chrome is cold. He'll do some shit in a pinch. Like he got himself out of the prison back in the Tsukasa, imprisonment arc or whatever. It recently got animated in season 2, which was gas as fuck.
Nice.
Chrome definitely has his abilities to, in a pinch, like do some science type shit that is tight as fuck. And he's definitely had great character moments throughout the series. But like in a setting on the moon like this where you need a real scientist, Chrome is not the one.
Yeah, I get that. I had that moment though. I was like, oh, that'd be kind of funny.
That would be funny. And Zeno, I kind of assumed like Zeno might have been a huge candidate to throw up on the moon, just because he's somebody that is as knowledgeable as Senku, and it would be safer to put him up on the moon just as far as the Stanley situation goes, I think. But he does make a great point again. Like, I was a NASA scientist. I'm the only one who can really stay here on the ground and play that part, making sure that everything with the launch and the landing goes.
This is his expertise.
This is my expertise, right? And Senku, he doesn't like. He's done.
He's the all rounder.
He's launched his little homemade rockets into space and shit. But as far as this goes, you need somebody.
He didn't
like
do it
Senku
professionally.
At the helm on the ground,
Yeah, he didn't do it professionally.
Something we talked about before too that I'm like really interested to see their plan on is how exactly they're gonna plan to have the revival fluid revive everyone. Are they gonna, like, you would assume they're gonna have to come up with a pressure system that is gonna make the gravity as if it were on Earth, because in that like 0G setting in space, how are you gonna beyond the shadow of a doubt guarantee that this revival fluid is gonna hit them when it could just come out of whatever tube or mechanism you put it in and just like float?
I wonder if they have like a pressurized thing, because like I like the idea that they petrify the astronauts.
Squirts it at them.
Yeah, I was thinking of like I like the petrification thing to save on oxygen to get up there. So
Totally makes
I
sense.
it made so much sense to me. I was like, that's a beautiful idea. I love that. Um,
That
the
also
part
brings
that
into
I
question something else too, but continue. Sorry.
yeah, the thing I wondered was basically I imagined like a film, like a thin plastic membrane over their bodies, over their petrified bodies, that when they get like a signal back from Earth or after a set amount of time has been elapsed, it'll like kick in a mechanism, and that mechanism will be pressurized to fill the bag with containing the petrified bodies with fluid, and then they'll become a thing, and before they suffocate they can just rip the membrane.
Hmm.
So that
That could be
way,
something too.
yeah, because like fluids floating around in space, dust, garbage floating around in space is always really tricky because you don't want fluids getting sucked up into vents. You don't want debris getting like particulate sucked up into filters, like punching holes into filters and things,
Yeah.
or piping or anything. So like it's a very delicate process. So I'm unsure how they're actually going to apply the depetrification solution.
It could be like we kind of started to get into earlier, like maybe like a pneumatic kind of mechanism right above their heads that kind of like squirts it at them, in a line with some pressure, which could be a way to guarantee that it would hit them, because if it has some pressure behind it, even in that 0G, it's gonna be directional. You can direct it. But there's plenty of potential for butt clenchy situations because of how machines can malfunction and problems you can
All
have,
the time.
like with the depetrification. Like they're gonna have a certain amount of depetrification fluid. What if like one of the mechanisms does malfunction and like only one or two of them gets depetrified, and then they don't have the depetrification fluid on hand to actually depetrify that third person, or
What if Senku can't unpetrify his arm? What if it leaks? The
well,
fluid
I think
leaks.
once even if one drop hits you, like it's going to depetrify, because they usually just pour it on their face and it like depetrifies the whole body. So I think as far as that
Okay.
goes, we're all right. But I mean,
Then I think it's not too bad.
And another thing that comes to mind is the oxygen system. Like, is it going to be a timed thing where it's supposed to kick in? Okay, like, so they're going to be petrified for this amount of time. So 24 hours after the launch, the oxygen system is going to kick in. They're getting depetrified at that exact moment. Could that malfunction? They get depetrified and the oxygen system has malfunctioned, and like they get no oxygen. Now it's a butt clenchy situation where like Senku has to try and fix it while they're suffocating and shit. Like there's just a lot of potential for butt clenchy situations with
Absolutely. I mean, look at the movie The Martian.
It's precise, like not only with the moon landing, like all that calculation and precision that needs to be in hand, but like with them planning to be petrified until right when they have to land. It's just crazy. Or is it until after the landing?
Yeah, like what's gonna happen? Also, like they need to prepare for extra oxygen just in case there's no real oxygen on the space station, right? Like a minimal amount of atmosphere within the base.
Yeah.
Because I'm still firmly in the Y Man is an AI.
I think Y-Man is an AI too. I think I'm on.
I've been sold on it.
I'm on that boat as well, and like he doesn't need oxygen, so
just enough to keep the computers from like falling apart.
Yeah.
So I wonder. I thought the maze was really funny.
The mazes were
on
funny.
page 10. Like I love that Kohaku is just like, hey, you should do this thing, and it's just like, yeah. I like how they only showed her like doing things she was bad at until she did the super jump. Like she basically just double jumped. Yeah,
she definitely lapped and then quick as fuck, bro.
Man, I really like that. I love that Kohaku gets to be the person because they needed at least one person from the Stone World to be part of the team. I felt like that was integral. I like that Kohaku is like getting like main stage attention for this thing. And the thing that she says on like page 16 is like, spare me the flattery. I know that much from our skirmish just now. Even so, when it comes to martial arts, I can't measure up to you in the least. And Hyoga was even talking about Tsukasa, but Hyoga before, in many, many chapters before, he was talking about how can you stand to fight me? I'm armed with the knowledge of martial arts ingrained into me. Like, that was his big edge over everybody. And so, like, Tsukasa's like, yeah, that knowledge, martial arts, science, knowledge, period, that's the great equalizer. I'm better fighter than you, but that's because I know how to fight. I was taught how to fight. You can pretty much stand up to me by yourself, raw, untrained. Like, if you had the same amount of martial arts training Hyoga and I had, you'd smoke all of us right now. So, like, I like that note.
He's like, the gap between us is not the yawning chasm you imagine, especially given the weapons now provided by the kingdom of science. Like, science is a great equalizer. You know what I'm saying?
I love that line.
Stand toe to toe with me in a sword fight. He's like, what I'm best at is like hand to hand combat type shit. You know, in a sword fight, I'm not. You know, you're pretty much just as cold as I am. And in a gunfight, who knows? So, you know, Kohaku could, like, marksman Kohaku in the future.
Like, dude, she's got a gun in this last page, 19.
Like, shit, we're pretty much in the end game of this story now. So, like,
marksman Kohaku coming soon.
But I mean, she's got a like an AR or something on her fucking chest in the last panel. So, like,
MG,
she could be going through some marksman training right now. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you zoom
blades
in,
aren't as applicable anyways up there. You don't want to be cutting your own suit now. All of a sudden, you're fucking out of there. You know?
Yeah, I like that Senku gets two knives. Ryusei's got like a gun, like a pistol,
got that, like, sawed off joint, like that axe motherfucker.
Exactly, that heavy stuff, and he also gets the little crossblade. Like, I really like that. It's interesting that, like, it doesn't look like Senku has a gun, to be honest, which is really interesting. But at the same time, he's just got looks like.
I think
he's got like two blades.
Yeah, he's got blades, and I mean that goes back to even the days of Tsukasa versus, like,
he doesn't kill
Senku. Not even, but like he had that gun. He had the gun. You know, that 6-top revolver that had the fucking disc up top and 6 shots with this the muzzle loader balls. And he had the blicky and was like, bow, bow. And was like,
and he couldn't aim for shit.
He couldn't aim for shit. Yeah. So
he has
a gun, it's pointless, you know?
I think it's interesting because, touching on the fact that Senku's kind of sucks at, like, hand-to-hand combat, they added loops of string on the handles of his swords so that if it gets disarmed, like mittens on a child,
it's like a Wiimote. You know what I'm saying?
It's like a Wiimote control. It's like for mittens on a kid. It's just like, bro, you're gonna get disarmed like 20 times in this fight, like, but at least you can just flail around.
Taking all the precautions for Senku.
Oh man, I just love that little note in there.
Yeah,
it's just like, that's so good. This was like a nice, tense mission. The only thing I like to think about is that Kohaku straight up doesn't believe Tsukasa was willing to betray. She's like, this doesn't make sense. Why would you attack me? This is like, this is.
You would backstab us now after coming this far.
And then he's just like, aw, thank you. Like, he looks genuinely touched on page 16. He's just like, I made friends. I trust these people. I didn't trust anybody, much less adults. Like, I like that. Good for him.
Hell yeah. This was a feel-good chapter for me. Like,
this was a great feel-good chapter.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting something horrible to happen soon.
Yeah. We've been getting a lot of these feel-good, kind of transitional, like, it's going to be something real horrible coming up.
Devastating.
Like, devastating. That'd be wild. But yeah, I think, I don't know, I think that's about all I had for Dr. Stone this week.
Inagaki, don't be breaking my heart.
Don't be breaking my heart. Well, with that, I think we can go ahead and get right into chapter 86 of Mashle, Magic and Muscles, Lance Crown and the Wicked Whack-a-Mole. And we start off with this nice little color cover of Lance and the spatial magic dude. with Mosh also in his next to his little candle, since he's in the dark void. He's huddling next to his little light.
Dude, I love that he's using like a fucking emergency candle. Just like,
and I can see him having this on him and like having started it with just like the friction of his like snap or something. He's just like,
yeah, friction of the two thumb strikes. Man, no, I think it's really interesting that these two characters are both like Lance and Charles Contini are both like the pretty boys of their groups.
Yeah.
And then most of the series is just about them being lame as hell. Like,
right? Yeah, they both just fucking are shit.
They're just like, I love. It's one of those moments where you find a character, or like, it's like when you run into a person that's way too like you, and you're like, fuck you, dude. I'm the guy who does that. Don't be like me. I hate this sub for some reason.
Yeah. But
man.
I think, I don't know, Dote's like, we don't touch on it. Dote kind of just gets left, but I want to see how he's gonna try and even fight this magnetic magic user. Like, I can see Lance coming back, and this dude is just like, Dote is like,
I won.
Fucked up. But it was cool to see, you know, Lance like persevere and come out, you know, on top in a situation that is really like this guy said, it's kind of directly set up against his magic, where this mole detects the mana kind of welling up inside you so that it can, you know, be on guard for the attack. And if your magic isn't fast enough, he'll dodge it because he's got like light speed reflexes. So this is kind of specifically tailored to counter Lance's magic. And it was cool to see him persevere through that situation and like reflect on his sentimental moment with Mash, where they kind of made the promise to not lose to one another. And through his second, like, uses such a powerful, like, over kind of arcing umbrella of mana that it confuses the mole, and then is able to like pinpoint, like, with even more speed than normal, attack the mole, which it was definitely cool to see. And like his moment of
how he overcame that is really interesting, because I liked that, because like so far the theme of the series is that these guys Volcus play dirty, right? They're like, oh yeah, okay, cool, I'm fighting him, I'm gonna fight this guy, and I have a plan. I know how his magic works. It's gravity magic. It ain't that fast. I have teleportation magic with the whack-a-mole thing. It's kind of weird. It's Contini seems almost, I mean, he's a mama boy, like a major mama's boy, but like particularly childish. The rabbit phone was kind of interesting. It reminded me of the guy, the intro broker that worked for the villains in My Hero Academia. He had a rabbit phone too. He also had that gun that was lighter.
I forget his name. Yeah, the dude twice who got his fingers cut off by Redestro.
Yes. So that, like, when I saw that phone, I was just like, oh yeah, that reminded me of that. Yeah. Dinner soon. Oh, I'm in a fight. Yeah, I'm gonna need some band-aids. Thanks.
Yeah. He's like, oh yeah, mom. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna be all right. Yeah, I'll call you in a little bit. Dinner? Yeah, I'll be home for dinner. Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's so cute, but it's like really funny that they're like Lance is just talking shit, like, gross, what a weirdo.
Right.
Starts talking to a picture of a person,
mimicking the little voice of his sister, and this dude's like, yo, you're batshit crazy. What the fuck?
This guy's insane.
You know, and he's like, don't question my sanity, you bitch. Like,
you're just a mama's boy. You ain't nothing. And he's like, I've been a mama boy since birth. And I'm like,
he's like, I've been a sister lover since before I was born.
And they're like, that's Lance is kind of weird. Lance is cringe.
Yeah, Lance is cringe, and this dude is cringe. Really, they're both equally cringe, which was like a big point of the comedy here. It was like what it kind of hinged on and revolved around. You know, them shitting on each other.
Yeah,
and also, I always forget this dude's name.
Conti?
No, not Conti. God damn. The fucking little brother of the fucking divine visionary, bro. I can't remember this dude's name ever. The one line dude in the squad.
Yep. He's got the little flash of hair, and we thought he was a traitor for a while. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. But like, I didn't.
Yeah,
I
you
was
get him
suspicious.
spectating and kind of commentating on the situation, which is funny, and I feel like a fucking idiot because I can never remember his name, because to me he's just such like a disappointing minor character who I thought was going to be tight, and is just taking this like backseat commentator role. So I don't know.
Where does he comment? Oh, there he is.
He's like commentating on the situation, like, you know, on pages 2,
Yeah,
3,
he's
or
kind
3
of
rather, and like, and 7, you know, just kind of.
Yeah, he's that guy in Crows where he's just kind of weak and just follows along and is like, oh my gosh, what's this? This is going on. I feel like this leans into like older school writing for sure. It kind of like, it reminds me of the series that came out in like the 90s and 80s, to be honest. That kind of like formatting and like, these are their roles. This is how they're going to like portray dialogue, etc. Like very extreme, like very silly lines done like dead serious. I thought the whack-a-mole was kind of like a bit whimsical, but I did like that way. It was an interesting way to do teleportation magic as opposed to like what teleportation magic usually is, because then like it's not being too much like Black Clover with teleportation magic, because like that's the obvious one would be, or like watching him kind of like punch through a hole and like punch the guy in the back of the head or something like that. Like you see that stuff all the time. So like the whack-a-moles with like the fucking perms and the boxing gloves, I think is like really interesting. I like that they detect magic, and that's why they're so fast. And then they're just like, yeah, nah, it's fine, we got this.
I mean, I guess the last thing I kind of wanted to touch on was just like something I love to see across the board in manga is like the resolve and the camaraderie. Like I loved Lance's resolve and Page's like really like 17 onward through the end of the chapter, where he's like, again, thinking back to his kind of promise with Mash not to lose, their interaction with one another, where, you know, Mosh was like, oh, or he's telling Mosh like, don't lose, and Mosh is like, oh, you don't have to warn me because it won't happen, but thanks, I'm glad you said it, you know, so you make sure not to lose either. And he's like, you think I'm gonna lose? And then that's when he kind of whips out the second, turns up, smacks the mole a bunch of times, and like Confi gets his ass beat, or is that his name, Confi?
Contini.
Why did I say Confi?
Honestly,
Kitchen. But,
honestly, that's funny because the guy was like Monsieur Lance, so I was thinking it because like I work at a restaurant that serves duck confit, so like I was like, no, I can totally see that.
But then you know, and then on the last page too, he's like, on the last couple of pages rather, he's like, for years I fought solely for the sake of my sister, but you know, I blocked all but that one goal. Despite what I'd become, someone helped lead me back to the right path. Now I have 2 reasons I can't lose: my sister and the promise I made to him. And just like, I love to see camaraderie moments like that across the board in any manga. That's one of my biggest hitting points for what I like to see personally. Big moments of camaraderie like that, super good for me. Love to see it.
Yeah, I like that like Lance acknowledges like, despite what I'd become, a degenerate, someone reached out to me and said, hey, you're my friend. And he's like, I value that. I value that a lot. He's like, because he's got a very lonely experience. I feel like Lance, and continuing to a degree, probably like have lonely lives as characters. And so they like, because like the trope of like the sister lover, the mama's boy and stuff, like the fact that they have one person that they project all their emotional needs upon. So I like that, like it's a very I feel like it's a trope that's around a lot. It's a very old-fashioned trope, so I like that it's slowly getting like, it's good for contrast and kind of for the joke. I like that. in this chapter. But for me, I like that the Lance is like, yeah, I'm expanding as a human being. I have other emotional like relationships that I draw strength from. So like I really appreciate that near the tail end of the chapter.
Yep.
The whack-a-mole was just funny. I liked it. Honestly, I liked it a little better than the cue ball one, which was kind of funny.
Yeah. It reminds me of something else that we've seen in another manga. Like this whack-a-mole thing seems really reminiscent of something else to me. That like I just can't. I feel like it's right on the tip of my tongue, but I can't fucking think of it. Like visually, it reminds you of like Kumasi from One Piece. You know the bear, Perona's bear. But
yeah,
I just feel like the way it functions, it reminds me a lot of something else that we've seen in another manga. But I just can't fucking put my finger.
Part of me is thinking of like Hunter x Hunter when they're in the video game world, Greed Island.
Yeah,
that might be it. Might be misremembering because there was a lot of like mini games and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
in there.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe there was something like that in Hunter x Hunter too. But God, I feel like there was something where like you had to try and hit it and it would fucking boom, fuck your ass.
No. Maybe Jujutsu Kaisen? No, because they had the punching bear where he's had to like maintain a consistent amount of cursed energy, and if they noticed a way, they would punch him in the face.
In the bear when he was watching the movies. Yes, thank you so much. When he was watching the movies, the little bear had boxing gloves, and anytime he fucking lost his cursed energy control, it would be like, just steal off his ass without saying shit. Yo, that shit, good fucking
stone cold. Yeah, nice. No, I loved exactly the principal, like the vice principal's puppets, the corpse puppets. I love those. So yeah, I liked it. I liked that both the moles on either side were different. Like the one beating up Lance has like a pompadour with like. And then the one beating up Contini is got like a fucking fro. Just.
Oh, it does have a fucking pompadour.
I love that. I love the like cheesy old school haircuts, and they're just like, kaboom! So like, I was like, I totally get where you're coming from for that Jujutsu Kaisen, like the punching dolls.
Yes, dude,
love that stuff.
I'm glad you put that together for me because that was like right on the tip of my tongue, and I couldn't fucking get it. Yes, good.
Very whimsical. I thought there was there's a point where like he's like, yeah, I can teleport both. The moles teleport, and I can teleport my attacks, so I don't have a gap in time. Like I don't have a gap in delay, which is interesting. And it reminded me of like this weird. So in physics, there's a thing called Maxwell's demon. It's like a demon of physics, and for like thought experiments, like okay, see if you have two rooms and one's full of hot air and one's full of cold air and you have two doors, would a demon be able to open and close the doors at the fast enough time to let like an even change of temperature swap the rooms, like move fast enough to trap all the fast moving electrons and move the door just at the right time to like let in all the slow moving electrons and like create differences in temperature and swap them out. So like tell us stuff like zero delay teleportation usually reminds me of stuff like that, where it's just like weird physics things like Schrodinger's cat and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a great chapter in Mashle. I think, again, kind of a little bit transitional. Like the fight didn't seem too crazy or high diff for Lance, but I think the real fight we'll get for Lance is like when he goes back. I think the same kind of situation will have happened on the other side, but for the other team, like Lance's real fight is going to be with the magnetism guy, especially with how hand in hand I feel like their abilities, like I feel like gravity and magnetism are
another parallel.
Yeah, they're kind of juxtapositions of each other, or they go hand in hand for the most part. Like
because Dot was not looking confident, to be honest.
Yeah, no, don't. Yeah, I don't know what he's gonna do to fight against. Like he doesn't have superhuman strength. If he pulls that spike ball shit again, it's just over for Dot. So I don't know. I think Lance will go
what can
back
you do? Explode everything?
Yeah, I think Lance will go back after getting the key, and like Dote will have handily been, dispatched of, and that'll be Lance's real high diff fight here within this Divine Visionary exam final is the magnetism guy.
Yeah, I think for Lance, he'll definitely have to be the one to deal with that, because I feel like just matchup wise, it's not good for Dote. I think that what's gonna happen is Dote's like gonna come to mid fight, when Lance and Rose Quartz does his like stuff, and then maybe he like explodes the wall, causes some debris, and then Lance uses gravity to like punch that through, because the guy has to apply magnetism to have it affect things. So if you have multiple pieces, maybe it's not as easy to do it on individual pieces. Like it's easier to slip up, I think, that way. I'm not entirely sure how to get through that, to be honest. The magnetism was really strong. Like, he felt really strong in comparison to like Charles, right? Like, there was other ways to do it. Yeah, I like that Lance is getting two parallels. One in just kind of like his cringe obsession, and now he's getting like in the next chapter, he's probably going to get another parallel in the magnetism. And then the only thing I had to say was those moles. When he dodged the moles of what they're going to do, like page 11-13, where it's like, it's clearly mocking me. It gives big Duck Hunt vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on page 11. It's like, just the... it's just like, stupid dog.
Right.
That's it for me.
Yeah, I think that's all I had for Mashle this week, too. Well, with that, I think we can go ahead and move right into chapter 314 of Black Clover, The Mass. And this is obviously referring to the mass of devils and everything that we get to form the Lucifero body, and the mass of extra things that we get to form the fucking Black Clover Bull Megazord. Go Power Rangers! That's like in my live reaction, I was singing that as I was reading this chapter. I'm like, what?
They really did the Black Bull Zord really for sure.
Megazord battles. All right.
Oh man, I mean, the title honestly made me think of like Billy Talent's "Welcome to the Midnight Mass, Sunday on breathe your last. Hold your breath and count to 10." Yeah.
But I love this chapter at the beginning of it. We get Mario Leona. Obviously, that's my girl. Everybody who's been following the channel for a while knows that's my number one bitch, my favorite waifu. Mario Leona's that shit. She's flexing at the beginning of this chapter with her Hellfire Incarnate, explaining how, like, the more you fight with it, the hotter your flames become. And she's, like, blowing this fucking big demon's head off. And then,
one of the major demons too, like
one of the ancient resurrected demons.
Yeah, one of the twins, I think.
Yeah.
That they summoned. Oh man, her Hellfire Incarnate, and like the fact that it's like the more I fight, the more I heat up, really straight up reminds me of that manga that just got canceled. It was like just got axed. Red Hood. There was a super buff instructor called Debonair, and her whole curse was that she ran too hot. Like, she ran too hot. Her temperature was too high, and she managed to like convert her curse of like burning up from the inside into like heat attacks. Oh, wow. And like using her muscles and to punch things, and then like letting out her cursed heat to like incinerate the things that she was touching. And like the more she fought, the hotter she'd run, and the more hotter she ran, she could just melt walls eventually. Like, she'd just melt walls by standing next to them. Yeah. And I was just like, oh damn. So like seeing that parallel, I was like, yeah, I like that. Like, even though that manga is like axed, I like seeing that kind of idea live on through other series. I'm like, all right, cool. This is a long-lasting series. You get to at least like explore a little bit of that stuff. And she's always been a smoke demon. Like, I understand why she'd be the one that kind of like stands up to other major demons.
Yes, I think she was actually featured on, I think we had a Smoke Demons tie-in episode or discussion at some point, one shots, where she was definitely brought up and mentioned as a smoke demon.
Man, so page 5, you see Morris.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this on the last episode where he's like, hey, that giant line on his forehead, that mouth is like really big right now. And he's got no whites of his eyes. I could see I could see Lucifero taking control of that puppet, and it totally paid off. I was like, yeah, man. And then that double spread on 6 and 7, it just looks, it's Berserk-esque. Have you ever seen any of the artwork of Hieronymus Bosch?
No.
I will send it to you. It's really stupid hard to spell, but it's spelled like Hierophant, a little bit like.
You should send it in the Facebook chat because I can't
open up the thing at the same time. Yeah.
Right now.
Oh, no worries, no worries. But Hieronymus Bosch, he was known for he was a Dutch guy. He was known for like paintings called like the Garden of Earthly Delights, and he just had like Where's Waldo, I Spy, crazy amount of detail hellscapes that were just insanity. He was kind of a Renaissance painter, but really weird about it. And so that spread on 6 and 7 kind of reminded me of that kind of level of like crowded, you know what I mean?
Hieronymus Bosch.
Yeah, just look up his art for a little minute. It's in there.
Yeah, it does seem like crowded, like almost like a lot of
chaotic,
kind of grotesque body.
And so when I saw this double spread,
heads and eyes with like grotesque features and
it's a little bit of that, a little bit of Berserk, just combined. That's our second level of the Underworld open. Really funky looking dudes. I like the vulture guy looming in the background. I also like the guy right by the word opened. There's this weird like pangolin shell looking dude. You're just
like Gollum or something.
Yeah, he's got a little shell on him. It's like,
like the guy front and center, like bottom right, with like the dog head.
Oh, like little pit fiend looking dude.
If he was like a demon or some shit.
Yeah, with like the kind of like classic rounded devil horns. Yeah, he looks like a pit, like classical pit fiend and stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. So they're opening up the gates to hell, and then they're like burning up the accelerant of Morris. But like,
well, it's funny that these demons
is Yami. I thought Yami was like the power source for that door.
Well, Yami gets sucked up too. He was I believe they were the impetus for opening the gate. Yami's darkness magic,
he's the key,
used with the world tree magic, would like infect it in a way where they could open up the gates of the underworld. And he also gets sucked up into this amalgamation of like the demons and shit. But it's just funny that these demons come out like they're like trying to turn up, and then they just immediately get like sucked into this fucking thing. They don't get to turn up at all.
They get to amoeboided it, you know? Just right. Like, I think it's interesting that Lucifero is using Morris's like modification magic to modify all the demons that are pouring out, and then fusing them with like the building and themselves to create a proper vessel. He's like, yeah, bro, I'm a top tier devil. You think a human body would contain me? Hell no. That's why all these other motherfuckers lost. I need
low level devil bodies plus these 3 human bodies that are of like high quality, you know,
and a building.
All these buildings, yeah. That's
man, wild. It's just like, that's goofy. Like, he just looks horrifying. Like, I think like on page 10 and 11, like those like tendrils are starting to wrap up like tumbleweeds,
Yeah.
and like maybe they'll become like fruit, like that guy from Bleach, that Arankar that like dropped fruit that like became clones and stuff.
Yeah.
So he might do something like that. It's gonna be colossal. I like the mech fight with the ultra giant black bull.
Yeah, we get the fate manipulation, absolute evasion, mana recovery, gray multiplication, matter conversion, castle black bull's hideout, cursed diversion, magic absorption, recombination. That's like the ultimate combo we get here from everybody. The fate manipulation magic from Vanessa, mana recovery from Charmy, Ghost multiplies gray so she can convert the matter into the black bulls, like sections more of them. And then Gordon and Henry combo so that he can absorb Lucifero's magic, I'm assuming, and then kind of make this big giant.
Use it to reinforce the black bull. Yeah,
I love even to like bring that amount of them together, he would probably need to like absorb magic, because that's like a bunch of extra sections. Like that's not just the house anymore; it's like a bunch of fucking extra sections.
Yeah, they added a bunch of buildings too. Like they're like, nope, we're gonna. I like that they're multiplying gray a lot. There's a lot of like, it feels like that kind of like combination attack that's like really classic of like the early Black Clover. I love that like the mirror eye is bleeding. He's taking. I love that he's taking damage from doing all of that,
over pressing his limits with his magic.
Even with like Charmy's mana recovery too.
Something that'll be tight too is that like she did actually turn these castle sections into more sections of the Black Bull's hideout. I wonder if this will be permanent, like if we now get like a giant Black Bull's hideout as opposed to what we've seen, because their building was already pretty big. Now we might actually get like, because it was noted how much bigger I think the Golden Dawn's headquarters was and shit, as opposed to the Black Bulls.
Yeah.
So now we might actually get like a huge sprawling Black Bulls fucking hideout, which would be dope to see.
Now this is a guild hall.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It was kind of just a little jarring to me how they like immediately, like this was a huge kind of threat supposed to be presented, and they were just like, fuck you, buddy, like punched him in his shit.
Yeah, because I was watching other people, like buildings were collapsing, like random mages were collapsing to the ground as gravity magic was just like AoE pressing them all down. Like if you look on like page 11, you can see parts of the ground that are just warping because it's just like being pushed by waves of undulating gravity magic. So like it was kind of interesting to see that
just
power through it, and it has to be like the magic absorption thing of Henry, because I can't think of any other way they would actually be.
And the fate manipulation too.
And fate manipulation too. Yeah, but like we've had instances where absolute evasion doesn't apply, like it's like, oh, I still got hit even through the absolute evasion, so like part of me is just like, oh yeah, but like I can see how that would work if like they're working in tandem, like the absolute evasion is working with the magic absorption to kind of like ward off the bad end of being affected by gravity. It's tricky because it's like the magic system isn't like, the interlocking parts aren't as defined, so it's hard to say what is in effect and what isn't.
Yeah.
Except for when you see the results.
Well, and if Lucifero is still able to utilize Morris's modification magic to the degree that Morris was, where he's able to nullify the fate manipulation magic, then it really doesn't matter that much.
I hope not, honestly, because like I think he was talking about like he's using the rest of like Morris's life to like open up the door, speed up the process. So I think it would be interesting if like Morris dies in that moment, and then Lucifero doesn't have access to those abilities once he's completed his proper vessel. Like, I was like, oh, thank God I completed the vessel before Morse expired. You know, I rang him out for every ounce of juice he's got, and I'm sitting pretty now. Have the big Duke out fight.
Yeah.
I wonder when like Yami is going to be like in there, because I know that the gang grabbed him and put him in the giant pile of fluff.
Did they?
No, he's actually
sucked up in the amalgamation.
Oh man, so they still need to rip him out of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna be where the next chapter is, because I was like, for me the big questions were, what's Asta gonna do? What's Yuno going to do? What's Yami going to do? Where's Vengeance?
Vengeance is also in there. He was just in there with
he's in there too, but like we haven't even seen his face.
Yeah, we didn't even see his face, but we did get
he's
page 4. Langris and Patry are like, oh, Captain Vengeance, William,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I know he's in that other kind of like coffin-shaped pillar.
Yeah, and he's on the bottom of page 4. You can see the 2 coffins. So like he's in that other coffin still chilling. We just really haven't gotten focus on him.
No,
which
not
I'm sure
at all.
A lot of people don't really care about, based on the fact that they just like thought Vengeance got off easy for what he did, and they would like to see him die and pay for his crimes, quote unquote. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. He might do the heroic sacrifice.
Yeah.
And like use his world tree magic untainted by Yami's darkness magic, and like have a holy tree grow in the side of this vessel, and just kind of like shove Yami in its branches away from the main body. And then the guy's like, oh no, roots growing in my body, get it out, that kind of thing.
See, like Lucifero's like, and all of a sudden you see like a tree branches just burst out of him. Like,
that slows him down enough that like the Black Bull Zord can like get a couple hits in before it like grabs. They like use like the red string of fate to like grab Yami off the thing and like back into with the homies. Like
go Power Rangers.
Straight up.
But yeah, this chapter, really, really quick, not a lot of like analytical meat to it. I don't think.
Not a lot of crunch,
but like it's a beautiful art chapter. There's like 5 double spreads with incredible art. Tabata just flexing the pen as he always does, and Ken, I think that's always been one of the biggest points in Black Clover, or like strengths of Black Clover rather, is the artistic strengths of Tabata. And
like
where he draws his influence from, like we talked about with this like Berserk / fucking
Hieronymus
Bosch-esque art and shit. Like he's stated he draws a lot of his influence from Berserk and Kentaro Miura. Rest in peace to the GOAT. Fucking it's a great to see Tabata flexing the pen. I just love it.
No, like 6 and 7, fantastic. And even on like 8, if you zoom in and just like look at all those bodies fusing together, becoming more, that's just like, there's so many like fine details. You can really sink into that art a little bit. Like compared to say like the spreads on 12 and 13, right? Like those are like more of like the epic showcase things.
Yep.
But like I'm really sold often on like the fine details, like on page 11 where the ground's like warped in multiple places and worn from like waves of gravity magic, and I'm just like, yes, that's where I'm at. I love seeing that kind of stuff. Seeing like did you ever play a Mega Man?
Yes.
Do you remember the bad guy Yellow Devil?
No.
It was from like the original like Mega Man series, where it was this giant like nanite robot, and it could shoot portions of itself and then recombine. It was this big yellow round dude with like arms and legs and a big eye. And so seeing Lucifera's like main goopy form like beginning to form reminds me of the Yellow Devil bad guy. A little bit, just because it's like vaguely anthropomorphic with a giant eye at the center of its face. And I'm like, yeah, all right. So, man. But that's pretty much
great
it for me.
Black Clover, and I'm excited to see where things are going. I personally got big death flags for Yami last chapter, so I'm really on the fence. I would hate to see Yami die, but I think it could be good for the story in a lot of aspects. I think it would be a very unexpected and jarring thing for Tabata to pull on the fan base.
It'd be very meaningful.
We'll see where things go from here. But
he's still in the frying pan. He's not in the fire yet.
Yes, but I think that's about all I had for Black Clover tonight.
Same.
All right. Well, with that, I think we can go ahead and jump right into chapter 334 of My Hero Academia, Parting Gift. And we start off with this awesome cover of Star and Stripe, in her kind of casual looking,
natural form.
In her natural form, just one of the tufts up, just one. And she's got this little kind of one eye open, like cheeky grin going on.
Her day in the sun kind of thing.
Yes. Beautiful, last parting gift for us of Star.
A lot of motions in that picture, because one's like, I'm looking at something to the side, I'm sighing and thinking, and then the other one looks a little more graceful on one side. It makes you wonder how much hair product she uses, to be honest. For real. How much hair product do you use? And it's like, oh yeah, I use like 3 gallons of that stuff every time I go out.
But getting into the chapter, it's like we see fucking. I just love this mental trauma that we get from like All For One as he's like running away. They're like, "Oh, don't let him get away! Shoot him down!" Da da. Fucking. And he's talking about how just before he like made the Nomu blow up so he could kind of use it as a diversion and get away, he stole the wing quirk and now he's kind of flying off. And he's got to find somebody to give an order to, but then he goes into this thing where like he remembers Star and Stripes dialogue about how like years ago a Japanese student studying abroad saved me. I went for 8 tufts of hair, and he's like, once again, no matter what move I make, there you are. And he's just got this mental trauma associated with All Might that like haunts him no matter what move he makes because of All Might's influence and like how widespread it was and how many people he touched as a hero and saved and influenced.
Yeah.
And like, made them aspire to being a hero because of what he was, so like they will put their life on the line and fucking
keep fighting him futilely, forcing him to effort. Yeah, I really like it because like despite of All For One's like massive shit talking, All Might nearly killed him.
Yeah,
he's the one who came the closest.
Oh yeah, they nearly killed each other. Like he
hurt him to the point that like he literally had to groom a young child to like replace him, like groom a child and like mutate that kid and like do all kinds of like Frankensteinish experiments to like come back. He's like, yeah, I'm so ruined. Even with regeneration quirk, I could never recover to my prime.
His dome is fucked up beyond belief.
Dude, Mr. Potato Head, the biggest bad.
But he also tore out like All Might's left lung and a bunch of his intestines and shit too. So like, yeah, they fucked each other up.
Man, there's a really fun. Also, one thing. So the wing quirk, of the kids that used to bully Deku when he was a kid, there was one kid with wings, and I've always. And there was the time where they had the kid with the same, like a Nomu with the same kind of wings when like he was training under Gran Torino, and we're like, oh, here's that thing. And so I want to see, I still think that that wing quirk is like
that kid's. I'm on board with that as well. I've heard that speculation in the past and that theory, and I'm on board with that. for sure.
It tracks for me, to be honest.
It tracks too. Something I liked seeing, was this final kind of emotional resolution that we get from the pilot, that is like the
on 4 and 5,
on 4 and 5, where he's like, remembers Star and Stripes dialogue of, I'll make sure your remains make it back to your loved ones, as she's decaying away and like they can't collect her remains, and he's just like, Star and Stripe, of course you surpassed him. You've always been the greatest hero, and just like kind of in his mind giving that closure to her of her dream of surpassing All Might and becoming the greatest hero. Like, you did do it, you through this sacrifice have proven that you are the greatest hero.
I mean, I think that's really important because like she did tell them, it's like, hey, don't worry about me. I'll make sure that your bodies get back to your families, and like when I've got family that serves in the military, like I can totally understand why having something for closure is really important. So like the fact that she promised them that and then died a death that didn't allow them to do the same for her,
yes,
really emphasizes that sort of like ultimate sacrifice.
Yep.
Like, and then even with her body physically destroying, her quirk is falling apart. Like, I loved it when he broke. Like, I love the two little bandits
convicts.
Yeah, Kashiko Kashi, convicted robber and murderer, and he's like, yeah, no, why'd everyone go to the big cities? Let's hang out and chill like on the outskirts. And then they get caught by All for One.
He busts through the wall and he's looking crazy, like with this long hair, like his face is all fucked up, the wings are looking fucked up, his arm is like burst apart.
I haven't seen a man that tattered since Devilman Crybaby. Like, he looks rough. He looks rough.
And he's like, he grabs this dude's face and he's like, I'll steal this bystander's quirk, and like once he's quirkless, I'll give him new order. And
nice turn page.
Yes, this turn page, and we get Star and Stripe like, nice try, idiot. And she just like, in this vestigial kind of world, tells him through this last order of new order, like basically all the strength of the quirk is dying out through this last effort to kind of tear you apart, and explains to him like,
so many
quirks. The quirk is dying. This was my last kind of fuck you. I'm going to tear apart a bunch of your quirks, and then my quirk is going to die in the process, and you can't preserve it. Like, this is
I
my
love
final
that.
fuck you to you, and you're not going to win no matter what, you lost this situation.
It's really ironic.
It's a wash. It's a draw.
It's not even like a Pyrrhic victory. It's like a Pyrrhic tie. And I love that parallel because he was making fun of her earlier. It's like, oh, by trying to preserve yourself, you lost everything.
Yeah.
And
I think
he did the same thing. He did the exact same thing. He tried to preserve himself and then didn't gain anything. He only lost things.
Yeah. And I think as much as I didn't want Star and Stripe to die, I think this is the best route Kohei could have taken in like evening things out a little more, because it was seeming a little like stacked against, like,
daunting.
It seemed stacked against the hero side with how powerful All for One was, his new strength in Shigaraki's like upgraded quirk that could just decay an entire city within an instant, and if you even get touched by it, you're decaying too. And with like us learning about New Order, like we've talked in the past about how that quirk on either side of the conflict could be just an overwhelming thing to do.
Overwhelmingly useful.
So him taking New Order and using it in the way he did to like give Star and Stripe a fantastic like introduction, showing, and like incredible fucking departure within the story, and also using that quirk to weaken All for One in a very significant way, like destroying who knows how many of his quirks by now. Just feels very well, and it feels like the best way, Kohei could have approached it and done it as a storyteller.
Feels
to me,
balanced.
as much as I didn't want Star and Stripe to die. And even in my reaction, I'm like, fuck, man, where was Endeavor? If he showed up, he could have kept her from dying.
For real.
It feels like the best thing that could have been done.
Yeah, I think for like the sake of the story, it like for balance of the sake of the story, because New Order was overwhelming.
Yes.
It was too fluid. It was extremely useful. I liked how it was too tempting a prize. It lured Shigaraki AFO out, and like it reduced him. So I like that it evened him out, because like even though he lost like a bunch of quirks, he didn't lose all his quirks. It didn't lose all his quirks. It bought them a week, but I feel like it could be more, and like it's gonna put him on the back foot for sure.
Yes.
Like he needs to hide while he's being recuperating.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting like the League of Villains to act out a little more and like draw attention elsewhere while he hides in a hole and recuperates.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm like 5D chess, but like if it were me, that's what I would do.
Yeah. I mean, it was great storytelling. Like it definitely forced his hand, or at least Star and Stripes played it, where she was like, "Fuck all this red tape, I'm going there now." It forced his hand. He even said that he was like, "This is the worst case scenario for me. This is the one thing I did not want to happen. Is Star and Stripe like coming now early?" So like I gotta make this play to try and stop her. It's the only thing I can do, because he kind of noted that if he let her just like convene with the Japanese heroes and sack up against him, he would have had a tough fight on his hands. So he had to make this gamble to try and steal the quirk, or else he was fucked. And if
I love that they
quirk,
both lost.
Like, it's over on my part. Like I can wipe the entire other side of this conflict if I get New Order. So it definitely forced his hand, and the gamble in the end didn't pay off for him.
Yeah, and we were talking about how so I like that Star and Stripes Kathleen Bates, the first page, her one eye is open, one eye is closed, and it almost seems like she's having two separate expressions at once, and then also having like the hair being different is a nice throwback to how Shigaraki and AFO are being represented by separate eyes, because AFO, you only see the eye that's open now, you only see those parts. You never see Shigaraki's thing. And then when she has this sort of like the looming death, this is my threat from the grave. Someone will rise up against you. Other heroes will rise. That is inevitable. You can look at Shigaraki and All For One. They seem much more separated and less entangled, entwined, enmeshed in that kind of weird like body horror way. They seem a little more separated. So I think this has kind of broken his hold on him. That page on 9 kind of reminded me of when Director Netero from Hunter x Hunter fought Meruem from the Chimera Ant arc, where he's just like, let me show you the power of human evolution, and just like that malice, the just music in the background, the giant skull. So like it reminded me of that, especially since quirks are about evolution. So I felt like that was a nice little like toss out. And I loved I think page 10 is extremely important, because
page, like really like bottom of 8 through 12 into like 13 is like my favorite part of the chapter, man. Continue though.
So good, because like we'll just go through 8 and through 9. Like after 9, number 10, we got Give It a Rest. The winner is the one who lives the longest. So take a hike, dead lady. And he ignores her. But because they're separated, you can see Tenko, Shimura, baby Tenko, like loom out of the clutches of All For One's grooming.
I thought that was Midoriya.
No, it's Tenko. Look at his eye.
Yeah, you can see the scar on his eye.
You can see the scar on his eye, and the kid had dark hair at the beginning.
He did.
And then you see all those hands on him. It's definitely
Shigaraki. And he says Midoriya.
And he deep down recognizes him as a person that would be able to help. And like you know that like Tenko, Shigaraki, Shimura isn't happy with what All For One is doing with his body. Like he's just like, hey man, oh no, hey, hands off my body, it's mine. You know, they've been butting heads all the time, but like for the longest time, All For One's been on top.
Yeah.
Until now. So I think this is a good time. I think it's good to have some Tenko time. You know?
It's been proven now, like Shigaraki knows full and well that, you know, All For One really was using him the whole time, just wanted to steal his body at the end of the day. So like, and if you go back to even his childhood, like after he activated his quirk and accidentally killed his whole family, like he did kind of want to fuck his dad up. He didn't really mean to kill the rest of his family. Like the dog was an accident. He was horrified.
Yeah.
His sister ran up, killed her too.
It's decay, yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but his sister like ran up and hugged him and like immediately dissolved. I was like, oh
and his mom too, like while he was decaying the house and she was decaying, like tried to hug him and said it was okay and shit. And after that, like what he wanted most was somebody to help him and someone to save him, and All For One just happened to be the first person. Like
I think that was
it was set
somewhat
up.
Planned. I think it was a setup. Because he showed up at the perfect time.
Because of who
he showed up at the perfect time.
But at the end of the day, he was looking for like a hero to reach out or like somebody to reach out. So there's that avenue that remains for Deku to break through, which we know he will, to save Shigaraki from this All For One situation and like the ultimate despair that he's had his entire life and shit. And
yes.
that there are people that will reach out a helping hand, and you know, even if you've done these terrible things, like be willing to look past those character faults and those terrible things you've done and like recognize that there is somebody underneath the surface who needs somebody to save them and help them.
You can be helped in the now, even if what you need is justice and punishment and redemption and other things that can be dealt with later. But in that moment, like sometimes people just need help, and even if you, after helping them, you're like, I'm gonna sentence you to several life sentences, you've done so much harm, you know.
Yes.
It's tricky, man.
Then we go into like the other like kind of governmental narration part of the chapter, which is fire for me. Like on starting on page 11, the hunt for Shigaraki resumed immediately. Evidence of a struggle was discovered, but the villain had once again vanished without a trace, leaving the authorities back at square one. The entire world learned of the #1 American hero's death that very day. News broke immediately, with the knowledge that even the hero currently hailed as the strongest had fallen to this threat. The nations of the world backed down. This was huge. Like all of them said, nope, we're done, because you know, it kind of goes further into the reasoning why on page 12.
Self-preservation.
The loss of a hero could mean the downfall of a nation. It was decided that there was a greater need for heroes to protect their own homes than to save people of some far-off foreign land. So the dispatch operation was immediately put on hold. Everybody said, nope, we're done. Fuck it.
Dude, Salam's a real one.
Salam is a real one, but I recently saw his quirk in this my cousin actually gave me is it a new book of the movie?
Is it the
it's like a movie kind of, it's just some it's, I don't even know if there's any actual story in it, but it's kind of just like a movie, like a data book basically.
Yeah, that's the book that came out, the data book. Yeah,
it's a movie data book, kind of explains Salam's quirk, and I was like, he turns into papyrus, like can make his body thin like papyrus and ride the wind.
Oh, he's like the Egyptian edge shot, where he can fold himself up like origami. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna actually be that helpful.
No.
I mean, edge shot's cool. Edge shot's cool. An Egyptian edge shot, just as cool.
I don't
but
even
at the
think
same time,
apply his ability like edge shot, where edge shot can actually make himself like a little tiny needle and puncture your lung and shit. I don't even think he can do that.
Oh, really? Because, man,
that was one of edge shot's like most major moves. Like he did it in the Shigaraki, you know, like war, the Paranormal Liberation Front war arc.
Yeah, I remember that. He was
went
so
through a bunch of people and they were all like, you know.
See, that's why I was like, oh, maybe, because like I could see like if he's like edge shot, he's really good, he's really powerful. But at the same time, part of me is just like, I don't know if he'd be good enough to fight All For One in that same, like 2 edge shots doesn't seem as compelling as, something else. Or maybe Papyrus, they might have an ability like Kanon from like Naruto, from like the Akatsuki, where they just like generate tons of paper and they can like craft wings and like other things. Like I've had friends who have made like throwing stars out of like folded paper, and those things hurt like a motherfucker. And if you're not careful, you'll lose an eye, like straight up.
Yeah.
So like I can see the damage people could do with paper and papyrus. Like I've seen origami stuff. There's the YouTuber that like forged like a knife out of like random crap, like, and one of the times it was paper. So like there's
old
definitely
rusty fucking springs and shit, and like
compress them, make a knife out of ice, random things. So I could see a knife out of paper. I could see origami being super useful. But I appreciate Salam just being like, motherfuckers, like, we're just going to focus on self-preservation, even if that problem ends up biting us in the ass later because we didn't all join in and stomping it out. Like, doesn't really sit right with me.
And then we get this last part of the chapter here where one of the pilots is like, yo, we were recording the whole battle, like, through the planes.
He scanned him.
Scanning, and recording the data of the battle through the planes that we were flying around. And basically saying, like, we're going to give this data to you because you must already have people kind of studying this dude and, like, figuring out what he's about. So that obviously is going to come into huge play. And it kind of does already in the end of the chapter where, like, through that, they've learned that he's been significantly weakened. And they, like you mentioned earlier, kind of bought us a little bit of time. Extends the time frame by a week now. And we get this fire panel at the end of the chapter of the top three of the Class 1A, man. Midoriya, Bakugo,
the Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
Love them.
Somebody in the live reaction chat on Twitch mentioned as well, it'd be cool to, I think we already got kind of a brief thing like this where Midoriya was explaining his one for all abilities and shit. But for him to really just sit down with the class, say, like, this is the full extent of all my abilities, so you guys can kind of work around me better. And also them to kind of do the same thing to him.
I want to see those team attacks.
This is how we progress, and this is the new shit that we've been able to unlock with our abilities in the time that you've been away. And these are the new applications that we've come up with and shit. So, like, they can all really mesh together better as a team at this point, since Deku's been solo for, like, months and months. But, yeah.
Oh, I just thought of something really cool. So, you know how Fujin stores, like, momentum, right? What if, like, they hit Deku with the gravity, anti-gravity. Ojiro uses his tail and whips and flips him into the air, and he spins, and then just charges Ajin, drops the gravity, and then uses that stored up thing. Because, like, with the low gravity, he can spin really quickly, so he could store up a lot of kinetic energy quickly, use the Black Whip, or use Sero's tape in conjunction with the Black Whip and, like, slingshot him at whatever he's going at and just hit him with the, like, supercharged Ajin. Like, I kind of want to see stuff like that.
Yeah, those kind of applications I'd like to see as well. That'd be nice. Combo moves, camaraderie, gang shit.
Yeah, I mean, because they're, like, I think the core of the story is that relying on a single hero is harmful for everybody. And the fact that, like, oh shoot, I recently went to go see a play about how they use the Greek term idiot, that, like, an idiot is a person that exists in a country as, like, and is different from a citizen. Like, a citizen and an idiot is a distinction, where idiot is just like they exist in their country and they make their choices and they live their lives in that country and they don't really participate in, like, the active betterment of that country. Whereas a citizen is like, idiots are born, citizens are made. So, like, a citizen can graduate from an idiot and, like, actively participate and actively try to help and, like, do their civic duties as well as, like, their personal responsibility to their common folks, So, like, I like that concept, and especially when it comes to the idea of, like, heroes, because a lot of people expect people to save them from the big problem, right? So, like, Like in the pandemic, people were like, oh, what are we supposed to do? And we're like, we're all supposed to stay home. We're supposed to all chill out and like, wait 3 weeks tops, and then we can go back home. But like, not a lot of people wanted to do that on an individual case by case basis. Even if we could have all collectively done that and been incentivized to do so, we could have done that. And now they're like, oh, well, we want this to help us. Okay, well, the vaccine isn't like it's not Drix from Osmosis Jones. Like, it can't save us from everything. There's like, mutations and diseases. There's all kinds of factors. So I think that like treating heroes as like a collective of like upstanding citizens and like being people that are working collectively as a group is way more impactful than relying on a single person.
Yeah.
What I'm really focusing on.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a bit long-winded, but like I had to expel my demons, I had to get that idea out of my head.
That was good, and that was a good ending point. I think that's about all I had for this chapter of My Hero.
Beautiful chapter, very heartfelt.
All right, well, with that, I think we can go ahead and get right into the final chapter of the night, the Piece de l'Existence, chapter 1032 of One Piece.
The numbers always...
Beloved Blade.
The numbers of the chapters always throw me off and make me laugh a little bit. Just like, bro, what?
1032, man. But we get
Odin's beloved
cool,
blade.
Funny little reader request cover. Black Cats and Yamato making deliveries to this old woman that we know from
adorable
Okabura town, right? The town of leftovers.
Yeah. Wano is healing.
Wano is healing.
Thank you, Kokoro Fukada.
But yeah, we start off with Marco carrying Izo past Big Mom, and I'm wondering what moves they're planning on making here.
I mean, Izo is a person that is pretty well known for like their arsenal. Like they're good with they're good with artillery, they're good with guns and stuff. Marco, I wonder, because as a phoenix, he is like a mythical creature of fire. So I wonder if he's there to act as like fire suppression, like literally like eating, like he might be able to suck up the fire as a phoenix, or there's something I saw in manga where a person used intense heat to block out explosions, like creating a wave of heat that would dull the impact of explosions, or using a fire to starve another fire of oxygen. So like I wonder if like Marco is going to just use intense heat to like suck up all the oxygen that this vengeful bonfire spirit, that Kabuki looking guy left behind.
Kazenbo, isn't it his name?
Yeah, Kazenbo. They created the Kazenbo.
Yeah.
And it's getting there. It's that island's gonna go up in smoke soon.
And we kind of that kind of moves us into this second bit of the chapter, really, where we got Yamato and Apu and Drake. They're kind of running through this room with the numbers or whatever, and they, Robin and Brooke kind of happen upon them with the CP0 members and Kazenbo in chase. And this to me was okay. So like we do get the illustration of where the Kazenbo is at this point. It is on the B2 floor, which is only 1, 2, 3, 4 floors away from the armory, and it is able to pass through walls.
It's burning through walls.
So it really is just like really a butt-clenchy situation right now. It's a time crunch. Like they need to figure out how to stop this Kazenbo spirit quick, because it's literally passing through walls. Like I don't even think it's burning through walls. I think it's literally like ethereal, able to pass
phasing through physical walls
shit as it's going. Like
Oh no. Do you okay, so I was thinking either Marco or Brooks will be the main ones to like deal with the
Brooks
Kazanbo.
Ice.
Yeah,
Ice could
Brooks.
come into play, but it was a little disappointing to me that the CP0 confrontation was kind of passed off onto Apu and Drake. It's kind of hype because we'll get to see them flex a little bit in combat, but I really did want to see Brooke and Robin kind of flex, but I don't know. It does make more sense, I guess, if you want to think about it in a power scaling sense, that Apu and Drake would handle these guys because
I don't think X Drake and Apu are gonna like win though.
no, they'll
You know what I
probably be
mean?
able to weaken them a little bit.
They'll
Maybe we'll
weaken
see.
them off. They'll buy them enough time for Brooks to deal with the Kazunbo, and
yeah.
then they'll have the face-off between Brooks Robin versus the two CP zeros. So I feel like that's kind of the trajectory. I loved how it became like Apu versus Drake, and then it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and you stabbed me like immediately. So
Yeah.
I'm going after you.
Apu antagonized him. He'd snap pictures of him and said, "Hey, I wonder what Morgans will pay for these pictures of y'all on dirty business here in Kaido's castle. What's up, man?"
Oh yeah, lapdogs, the celestial dragon, spotting Kaido's castle. Breaking news, and they're like, "We're gonna
After
kill you
losing their
faster,
arms
Epstein."
broker Doflamingo, the government has finally stooped to, and he's like, "Don't get in over your head." Blitzes him with the Shigan, like, bow, hits him.
They're like, "Let's wrap this up like Epstein,"
Right?
and he's like, "Nope, I got armament hockey. Can't suicide me that fast."
Yeah, and then they team up here. We're gonna get Drake and Apu versus the CP0 guys here, so that's all right. And then that moves us into this Zoro. What brings us like through the end pretty much until we get the Orochi stuff. But the Zoro, obviously, there's some comedy integrated into there.
Goofy.
Which we should have expected, especially with like the back in the Queen fight we got when he was like launching the snake out of his body, and he's like, "This is how Brachiosaurus has always behaved in the past." And Sanji is like, "No fucking way, get out of here! You're so fucking
I don't believe
stupid."
you.
It's funny that we get Zoro like, I had no idea. Like he just completely believes it, but
He's just. I love that dichotomy.
when he was stretching his shit back, and he was like, "Nee," I was like so off put by that. I like totally didn't expect it, man.
I didn't like that the nose bone was connected to the tip ponytail bone. It hurt me. It hurt me a lot. I was just like, this is awful. But page 10, bottom thing, when he's saying Imperial, he's definitely doing that little. I got that moment where he's doing the little fuckboy face, like,
yeah,
like
Imperial deep fried steak, and just that thing's got a lot of stopping power behind it. It blows the fucking shit apart.
Dude, he's like a rubber band man a little bit, like a woodpecker meets rubber, like Elastaman. It's just like, what is this?
Yeah, the pteranodons of the ancient past hunted their prey just like this. Damn it, I had no idea. And he's like, he's stuck on the ground trying to throw, aerial attacks at him, and King's pretty much just like, it's shrugging his shit off, dodges the 360-pound Phoenix, eats the black robe dragon twister with the armament hockey wings or whatever. And then we get a little bit of hinting at possibly King's Race's abilities, where Zoro's
he's like a Lunarian,
dragon and the dinosaurs, you guys soak up damage like nobody's business, huh? True, but in my specific case, it goes even beyond that. So does King's Race, like a specific ability he gets from like being a part of his race, like it maybe has something to do with damage soak or like durability? And also,
I wonder,
flying, is kind of hinted at.
Zoro was pointing out that like the flames on his back can't maintained after he transformed, and he's like, I thought the flames on his back were a devil fruit ability, but that might not be the case. I think that's a tie to his race. I think it might be like the Lunarians or whatever kind of stuff that they borrowed to give Sanji the flaming ability.
Yep.
So I think that like his power is probably beat up like fueled by emotions, whether excitement or resentment or anger or pride, possibly just like by fighting Zoro and getting worked up by fighting a strong opponent, his flame is burning hotter and he's just slowly getting like a little stronger because he's he's putting Zoro through the ringer a little bit. He's just like, man, he's barely taking any hits. Like, he can fly. I'm getting wrecked.
It's cool to see this thought from Zoro, this level of like thought, and like he's trying to deduce King's ability. This is something we rarely see from Zoro, where he's actually being kind of pressed to his limits and having to really think about the opponent's abilities and how he's going to counteract them in order to win the fight. Like, we've only seen it a few times as far as I can remember, like Mr. One in Alabasta, Pika in Dressrosa, and like now is like the 3 times I can really remember where he's had to really think about the opponent's like ability, how to counter it, how to conquer it, you know?
Absolutely.
It's something that feels good to see, especially from Zoro, because, you know, it's a well-noted thing. Like, since the time skip especially, we don't see Zoro like really struggle that often. And so it's really nice to see him have to turn up and struggle, think, deduce, and, you know, flex his
try hard,
as well as his, or not his fighting ability, but his deductive mental ability, as well as his fighting prowess and strength.
I really appreciate that because, like, Zoro reminds me of the Shinsengumi guy from Rurouni Kenshin, where he's just like does that like stabbing style. He's just like, yeah, and he does like that fast spear thrust, and he smokes everyone. He almost like a Deus Ex Machina style character, where he's like, oh, we're at the tight ropes. Well, we bust out this guy, and you know he's cold blooded and.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I never remember his name, but you know exactly who I'm talking about. The slicked back hair, he had the uniform, he was part of the Shinsengumi at one point. One slice, one kill, you know, kind of guy. And so I like that Zoro is actually like struggling. And like
Saito.
Yes, Saito. Like, Zoro was the Saito of this series because he was just like, oh, I'm just going to deal with all the problems, you know? Because Zoro handled himself well in almost every arc, you know? Like, it's nice to see him really struggle against, like, these emperors like Kaido, and now against King and stuff.
I agree, man. Shout out Hajime Saito. Shout out Yosuke Iguchi for playing such a great character and voicing him so well. But I definitely agree with all your points, for real. What do you think about this last part of the chapter where, like, Zoro's laying on the ground, all of a sudden he starts to hear a shamisen, and right at that moment, like, Enma kind of activates and starts to suck out some of his haki, and then that moves us into this scene where Orochi's kind of chilling, and he hears the shamisen as well, and then Komurasaki or fucking Hiyori is in the other room playing it, and is like, oh yeah, like I always want to be by your side, Lord Orochi. Like,
dude, yeah, she almost seems like a very dreamlike quality. Like, even he says, like, if this is a dream, I don't want to wake up, and she seems like that zoom in on like 17 on her face is like she's too glorious, right? Like, too bright. So I wonder if it's like a spirit or a ghost or maybe more magic, because they dealt with that witch that one time, but the witch was on Orochimaru's side or utilizing him, you know, so I don't think she'd use it. And the sword activating to the shamisen, because Komurasaki was like Odin's like main squeeze for a while, right?
No, not Odin's. Komurasaki was Orochi's main squeeze for the longest.
Yeah, but like, did she have interactions with
all the time?
Odin?
Yes. Odin?
Yeah.
She's Odin's daughter. Like, so back when they were younger, yeah.
Okay, so I think that makes sense. So that actually changes for me the title of the chapter, right?
I thought something on this.
So,
where are you going with this?
Odin's beloved, the blade, right? So it's activated. Yeah, it's activated by, you know, love. You know what I mean? I think that's really interesting because, like, you always see like evil swords. They're unlocked by bloodlust, and through them you can truly kill an opponent, destroy their soul. But I like a sword that's powering up from like nostalgia, love, affection, like the remembrance of others. She's playing a song that like her father probably liked. It's probably like one of his songs that he like danced and sang to, you know? And then that's what the sword is resonating to because it still has spirit, right? Like things are mementos of the people that are gone. So I like the idea of like the spirit resonating with the people that survived because like Wano is about survival, right? It's not about, it's like we want to survive. We don't want to make the people who died in vain, that kind of thing. We want to remember. So I like the sword being activated by like remembrance and love, honestly. Like it is a beloved blade. It is the blade of Odin's beloved, you know?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of like where I was taking it is the relation between Enma and Amino Habakiri and like how they function together because with the chapter title Odin's beloved blade, you would think of Enma when you read that. But where you could also take it the other direction, like we've gotten very little like shine and explanation and like just delving into Ame no Habakiri and how it functions, what it does. And I'm even seeing like when I kind of look it up here, some Reddit threads, you know, Enma versus Ame no Habakiri. Like the main thing that comes up, if Enma can take the haki out of someone's body, severely draining them, what if Ame no Habakiri could do the opposite?
Oh, so, giving.
Yes. So what if this is literally like, as she's playing the music here, it's somehow, you know, linked to Enma here, and it's taking Zoro's haki through Enma, feeding it into Ame no Habakiri, which is concealed somewhere on Hiyori's person here, and she's about to fucking really activate and kill Orochi, satisfying her vengeance. She said she'd love to kill Orochi herself when she was laying with fucking Zoro.
Good for her.
And she could really satisfy her vengeance and like, you know, just, you know, kill him in Odin's name, and that would fucking,
that'd be super satisfying.
That would be super satisfying, and
it's like Carrie or
fucking sense.
It'd be like Carrie or Jennifer's Body or like Midsummer. It's very good for her energy. Just like good for her.
It would make total sense because like Enma's darkness, Ame no Habakiri's light. In the actual Japanese lore of the storytelling, Ame no Habakiri is the blade that's that slayed the Yamato no Orochi, which is
the 8-headed serpent. Yes.
So it would make total narrative
sense. That explains why the room's so bright too.
Shape and form, bro. Like this is something I'm
fitting.
So she's draining Zoro's armament haki to empower herself through fucking Ame no Habakiri, and she's about to activate on Orochi and kill the fuck out of him. I hope,
dude, that's so cool. Normally, I feel like I'm like mythology's like my bag, but like Japanese mythology isn't something I'm super strong on. So like, that's great stuff, dude. And that totally explains why the room's so bright, too, because it's charging up. Oh man, that's fantastic. Because I was really thrown by why she's like, yes, neither can I, my lord. I'm always by your side. And just like, she seemed too happy to see him, and I'm like, I don't get it. You know, I was just like, I'm ready for that switch, that whole heel turn a little bit.
I am too.
I can't wait for that kind of backstory.
I think that's really all I had for this chapter One Piece. I think next chapter we'll probably like... We'll probably go into this, like, we'll probably get a lot of this Orochi shit next chapter with, like, hopefully she just fucking kills him. That'd be tight as fuck. But I think we'll stay away from the Luffy shit because I think all these fights need to resolve. I've been saying this. all these fights need to resolve so that everybody can kind of make their way to where Luffy's at, or like have the ability to see the resolution of the fight, because they all have made comments as to how they want to witness him becoming, you know, the Pirate King, quote unquote, like conquering an emperor, you know.
Yeah, he needs to get that thing. So I definitely I agree with you that like these fights need to be finished. The Kazanbo needs to be stopped.
Yes.
My money's on Brooks and maybe a little bit of Marco.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, yeah.
A big part, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
I think that'll be
that
it.
about does it for this this chapter of One Piece for me.
Nice, fun chapter. The rubbery face head spear with the wacky woodpecker attack really threw me off. But other than that, like I really enjoyed it.
That's Oda though, straight up. Like that's Oda.
Yeah.
He's always gonna incorporate these goofy ass like comedy, fantasy, pseudoscience, you know, history elements into his story, which I love.
I like the parallel loop between like Sanji's disbelief and Zoro's just like, well, I'm too ignorant to know otherwise. So yeah, Sanji's sure, man.
Like actual knowledge, and he's like, fucking right. And Zoro's like, oh, wow,
I mean, you're doing it, so obviously it's the thing.
But yeah. That'll do it for this chapter of One Piece, and that'll do it for this episode of the Project Manga Podcast. Thank you all so much for watching. If you did, be sure to slap a like on this video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more fire-ass content weekly. Make sure you comment down in that comment section down below. Let us know what you thought of this Week in Jump. Let us know if you thought we missed anything. And yeah, just talk to us down there. We'd love to have you converse with us. And as we said before, take a look in that description box down below while you're down there. You can find links to any and all of our individual social media accounts, such as Twitter, online communities like Discord, audio listening platforms, whichever you prefer. You can find us there, as well as links to support the podcast through our online shop or our Patreon. And with all those words said, this will be another stupendous episode of the Project Manga Podcast. Wrapping up, I'm your host, Eagle.
And I'm Mellow Yenis.
Sarabed.
Sayonara.